You're listening to Nonpartisan Hacks, the podcast where we talk about good government from the local level on up. I'm Joel Grenz, a City of Parksville councillor.
And I'm Sean Wood, also a Parksville councillor and 2026 mayoral candidate. We're in Victoria at the AVICC convention, the Association of Vancouver Island and Coastal Communities, which brings together elected officials from across Vancouver Island and the coast every year.
And this is the very last AVICC before all the people here go back to the polls. So unsurprisingly, everyone's asking each other whether they're going to run again. And the answers aren't always what you'd expect.
It's not, I'm tired of the budget process, it's something else. And our guest today has made it her mission to name that something else and do something about it.
Marianne Meed Ward is the mayor of Burlington, Ontario, with 16 years in elected office. She's also the co-founder of Elect Respect, a movement that started as a small conversation among a group of women in Halton region and has since grown into a national campaign with hundreds of elected officials and more than 50 municipalities signed on.
She was recently named Municipal World's Mayor of the Year for that work, which is the only direct elected leader in Canada are mayors, and she's here at AVICC to carry the message west.
So Mayor Meed Ward, welcome to Nonpartisan Hacks.
Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. It's
Thanks
great
for
to be
making
here.
time for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're here at AVICC, which is a whole bunch of elected representatives from across Vancouver Island and the coastal communities. Why are you here, all the way from Ontario?
Yeah, I was invited by Mayor of Courtenay, BC, Bob Wells. He heard about the Elect Respect campaign a couple of months ago, reached out, brought it to his council, and really saw the value of it and wanted to give it more attention. So invited me to come out here, and AVICC was wonderful, giving me a booth out front to spread the word. And people have been coming by my table and just talking about their experiences. And it's wonderful to have a community of support, but the downside of that is the fact that this Elect Respect is needed, that everyone has a story of some terrible behavior on their council or with public, and so it's really caught on, and it's great to see, but it's unfortunate that it has to exist at all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we've got our pins on there. Sean's got his pins,
Yeah,
so
they are.
anyone who's watching will see the pins. They're very nice. Actually, I was wearing it yesterday, and multiple people asked me what the pin was about.
Yep.
And they also complimented the design of the pin, so, there you go.
That was somebody in my office. I got to give a shout out to Roman Drobot. He designed it. It's a shield, and it's got like a check mark for a ballot box. There's a heart in there, and it's really thoughtful in terms of us coming together and protecting each other and really supporting people that are doing this work, because if we can't make democracy safe for people, then people won't run, people will leave, even the public won't participate in dialogue if they think that the focus is going to come on them and they're going to get treated with this vitriol. And we've seen that happen, and people just retreat then from the public space, and we lose those voices.
Yeah, they protect themselves, from that kind of damaging behavior. For the listeners, are there any situations that kind of jump out at you that kind of stand out as examples of behavior or conduct that would turn people away from running for elected office? Are there any kind of examples that pop up for you?
Well, it's gone as far as death threats in my own case. So, and this is where social media has really become the fuel to the fire of spreading misinformation, abuse, toxicity. And it was Instagram, which we used to think of as the place for pretty pictures, of what you were doing or eating or travels or whatever.
Yeah, to get away from the politics.
Yeah, well, no longer, unfortunately. So somebody had been reaching out to my office with a blocked phone number, disguised email, sending threats, and then they finally used their Instagram account to send a death threat. There was a development application in Burlington that they didn't like in their neighborhood, and there was a public meeting coming up, and they said, if you come to that public meeting, I'm going to set you on fire.
Oh.
And the Instagram account was traceable. So, of course, we sent all of this to the police. They hadn't been able to trace it until then, but through Instagram, they were able to find out and identify this individual. But they told me not to go to that meeting.
Wow.
they said we're not sure if it's, if we can keep you safe, essentially. And that's my job as the mayor, to be at public to be at public meetings, hear from community. That is part of the job. And so it was shocking, but it wasn't the first time that I'd received a death threat. And it wasn't the last time I was told not to go to a public meeting. That happened very recently when an individual was threatening to come to City Hall and do harm to people. We had a hold and secure at our City Hall. There was a public meeting that night. I had an event at City Hall in the lobby that had to be canceled. And then I was told not to go to that another public meeting that night because the individual was still at large. So it is seriously affecting my ability to do my job, but it's also terrifying, and not just for you, for your family. My family sees us, I'll never forget calling home and saying, I can't leave my office right now. And then it was on the news, and I called them to let them know, you're going to be hearing about this or seeing this imminently. There's a hold and secure. I'm safe. We're in our office, but had to turn out the lights, close the blinds, do all the safety protocols for a hold and secure. So it makes people think twice, and then people who might think about running see what you're being subjected to. So
I don't need that.
Right. Yeah. So it is also all of that bullying, misinformation, that toxicity, up to and including threats to your personal safety. And, my message is people shouldn't have to choose between public service, and their personal safety.
For anyone listening, though, the sirens that you're hearing in the background are not sound effects that we added to the podcast. Those just happen to be going on in the background.
Yeah, it makes it unworkable, and security detail might be affordable at the provincial or federal levels, but at a municipal level, often, some sort of security detail that follows you around isn't in the budget. Security gets expensive. It makes the job next to unworkable, probably.
Yeah, in our case, we have City Hall security that are in the building, but there was a time where they had to staff up right around this period where they sent security to my public meetings. And I wasn't really aware of the impact it was having on public until I was at a public meeting and people were starting to approach me, and then they stopped, and I thought, well, why are you stopping? And then I turned and I saw that the security guard was standing right there, this giant guy. And I'm like, could you just stand a little bit away? Nobody would come and talk to me because they were worried. And it was so visible, and I thought, this is just not okay, that I need this in the first place. The fact that people are now feeling intimidated, and it's kind of that irony, that the security is there to make you feel more safe, and yet it made people feel more nervous and feel like they couldn't come and talk to their own mayor at a public meeting.
Yeah, so a chill on the entire democratic process, really. Absolutely. There on multiple fronts. But you then turned this challenge and this, instead of running in fear and not doing something about it, you've clearly done something about it. Maybe speak to how you kind of took that and turned it into power.
Well, this was started by, I call it my coffee clutch of women, my support group, elected women in our region, Halton region, which is 4 municipalities. And we got talking one day about our experience being a woman in elected office. And every single person, from trustee to cabinet minister, we invite everybody to the table, and they all had a story of harassment, of abuse. One of our MPs left because she was just done with it. And so we sat around and we thought, this is not okay. What can we do about this? And the one thing you can always do is lead by example. So we said, okay, we're gonna create this pledge. We're going to commit ourselves to being respectful of public, respectful of each other, because sometimes this is elected official against another elected official. And then we're going to, in return, ask the public and our colleagues to treat us with respect. We're going to ask for appropriate resources to be directed here, so appropriate enforcement authorities to take this seriously and not just see it as, well, that's politics, that's what people do, to get involved, and then call it out when we see it. So that was the essence of the pledge. We took the pledge, we launched it, and then it just took off. And I think it took off because people, two things. Everyone had a story, unfortunately, and people felt, well, this is something I can do. Yeah. Lead by example is something I can do. I don't have to change other people's behavior right now. I can change myself.
Yeah. Well, I love that because I think the problem has actually kind of been started by politicians in a lot of ways by
absolutely.
getting not protecting the kind of vocation or the profession of being a politician and denigrating the entire exercise of being a politician, which at the end of the day is just people in your community going to step up and saying, I'm going to be your representative in government and help make decisions on our behalf. But then in order to get that seat, we shouldn't be willing as politicians to do whatever it takes to win. We should do what is respectful. We can argue about policy. We can argue about the best way forward. But doing these sorts of threatening and personal attacks, it has started, I think, in a lot of ways with politicians. But we should. I like how we're starting to end it with politicians as well, doing a pledge to say we're not doing this anymore.
Well, and people ask, how did we get here, right, as a country? And it's not just in Canada, obviously, and it's clearly not just a Burlington, Ontario problem. I'm out here in BC hearing exactly the same type of stories. And so, the fact of the matter is that people with the biggest megaphones, which tend to be elected leaders at the highest levels, have engaged in behavior over the years that provides permission to be bullying, to describe your opponent in derogatory terms or nicknames, spread misinformation, attack ads, like all of that, which focus on people, not policy. So if people are seeing that permission granted and that behavior at the highest levels, then they feel that they can do that. And so that's why it's become so powerful when elected officials say, I'm not doing it that way. This is about policy. This is about good dialogue. This is about democracy and debating the issues in an appropriate way. And that's what I'm committing to. And the public has really responded well to that. And we're trying to create a bigger megaphone to counteract the misinformation and that abuse.
Yeah, and change the culture amongst ourselves as politicians. Yeah,
absolutely.
And when we take it out on the people instead of discussing the policy, it's really undermining our own argument because hey, I don't have any actually good arguments against your policy. So what I'm going to do is make fun of you as a person or take it out on you as a person. So really, it doesn't help your argument. It weakens it. It shows how weak it is. So. It's not a great tactic.
No, calling somebody an idiot doesn't persuade them.
No, you really got me now. Okay, I'll vote for it.
This is why your policy is bad. No, it doesn't persuade, and I encourage people. I say have more respect for your own position on something to mount a credible argument and not get into personal attacks. And that I can see when I say that to people, sometimes they kind of think, oh, yeah, maybe I should go back to the drawing board and think about why I support this position and then put that case forward to see if I can persuade anybody.
Yeah. Joel and I are very fortunate because I think we both kind of ran on that this term, and our term has been relatively quite good. I think Pickering might come up to mind because we've hung out with one of those councillors in Ottawa. Not maybe the councillor that you're thinking of, but we've seen some pretty serious issues across Canada and different municipalities. And you probably know all of those stories, and I think. You're right to let's handle it at the political level because number one, that's what we can control, but we do see ongoing issues at those tables that could be a lot better, and you're setting the example. These are the leaders of the community. Well, then lead with respect and lead by example.
Well, I was actually just out in Pickering. We had the Ontario Big City Mayors Caucus annual general meeting was there, and we're the 29 largest municipalities in Ontario. And so we got talking about the situation that the mayor, who was our host, was facing in Pickering. And they have had about 22 complaints, 8 findings against one of their councillors, and for spreading misinformation, abusive and inappropriate treatment. And the tool they have is to dock your pay. Yeah. And that the mayor was telling me that this individual has not been paid for about 2 years, and yet continues.
Not been paid at all.
Yeah, right, because the findings keep lying up, and it kept getting docked, and it just also shows just how limited. But they still have virtual council meetings because it's become so disruptive, and so it really then, as we were saying earlier, it affects your ability to do your job. It creates a really toxic environment for staff and council, and there's really limited tools at the municipal level to deal with somebody who is behaving in this way. And they've used every tool that they have, but the behavior hasn't stopped. It's continued. The community, she has a community of support behind her. And, it's just become really, really unfortunate for the people just trying to do good work in their community.
Yeah. We have talked about code of conduct at City of Parksville and our regional district, et cetera. And, one caution that always comes up is it could be weaponized, because we are in politics. And so if there's, say a slate or a group at a table that can outnumber another group, and then you can file things, and then maybe code of conduct could be, weaponized. And so it's too bad that you need the tools, but at the same time, you don't want them to be weaponized on a political level. Obviously, they're using all the tools that they can in Pickering, but doesn't seem to be, helping sort of. It's maybe it's putting gasoline on the fire, who knows, but they're using the tools that they have. And I don't know if they're seeing any results, but
yeah. Well, certainly other people are like us. We're talking about it. We're talking about the need for appropriate tools. They've taken the steps that they can, and what we're discussing in Ontario now, the province is looking at legislation that's been requested where an independent judge could look at, would have to reach a high bar of very egregious behavior, but could remove somebody from office as the ultimate penalty. Because in a couple of the worst examples, the rest of council can't, it grinds your business to a halt. In some cases, it creates a very toxic environment. And, if that was happening in a professional office, non-political, the person would be dealt with or fired. And so that's become really controversial. Should you be able to remove somebody, or should the voters be able to only remove? Some provinces have recall legislation. We haven't gone there in Ontario, but the fact of the matter is the tools are very limited to try to correct the behavior. And even when you use them, it often doesn't change, and it can be weaponized, and it can make things worse. So people will not file because the political, fallout of that, especially if there's a finding that, this wasn't great, but it doesn't reach the threshold, then it just emboldens
Now you've got the whole
people.
rest of the term to deal with the fallout from that.
Exactly. And there are staff and people, in my own case where, people have come to me and said, I've been treated this way. What can you do about it? And I've encouraged them to file a complaint, and they don't want to do that because they recognize there's a political price to pay as well.
There are different tools that we've been mentioning here. Some of those are kind of more reactive tools, like after the fact is trying to deal with it. This program is a proactive one.
Yes.
Maybe get into some of the nuts and bolts of how you are trying to change the kind of culture and conversation. You mentioned the pledge. Maybe get a little bit into sort of like what are the nuts and bolts? What are you actually asking of elected representatives in the wider community to do as part of this campaign?
Well, it does start with a commitment. If we don't commit ourselves to respectful democracy, all the tools in the world aren't going to force us to do that, because people will just thumb their nose at it.
So how do people do the commitment part?
So they can go online, electrespect.ca. You can just fill out your name, and then you'll be listed along with all the other people. We're encouraging people to ask. Elections are coming up in Ontario and here in BC. Ask the people running, have you taken the pledge? Have you committed to respectful democracy? And hold your elected officials to account. Councils can bring it to their tables. So there is a sample resolution online at electrespect.ca, and over 60 municipalities across the country have brought that forward. And then you got to live by it. So it's not enough to just say, I believe this, but if people haven't made the commitment, there's a limited way to hold them to account, right? And so once they've made the commitment, then you have a stronger argument to say, hey, you said that, you pledged to this, your council said you were going to treat each other with respect, and now live up to that.
Yeah, so sign the pledge, and that's something that
anybody can do.
Anyone can do when they're seeking office, have been elected to office, can go online, sign the pledge, and then they'll show up on the website as having signed the pledge. And then they can point to that or link to that from their campaign website or whatever, and put themselves there. And then in terms of the public, getting extra awareness to the public is also part of this then, I assume, to try to get the public aware of the pledge through that sort of network.
Yes, and the public can sign it as well. We ask them to, because we want the public public to treat elected officials with respect too, because it becomes this vicious cycle. If we're behaving badly and then the public treats us badly and then we treat them badly, and then it's like this vicious circle. So we need everybody to commit to this, and there's actually more public than elected officials who've signed on, and they've had it, right? They just want people to govern with their best interest in mind. Nobody likes to see, the bun fights or worse on council. They want good people to continue to run. So in our own case, when our member of parliament said, I'm stepping away, I don't need the abuse, the threats, the death threats, all of that, people were really sad. We lost a good voice and good representative, including people that may not have voted for that person, but they recognize that that's not, we don't want people leaving for that reason.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you get maybe some of the best people that you would want to be in that role. Yeah. And then the people who are willing to do all that sort of stuff and get into the muck are the ones that are going to stick around still. Yeah. And the community is only going to suffer if that's what we're doing here at the council table.
Doesn't have to be part of the job. Doesn't have to be part of the game. Respectful discussion is how you get to good decisions. You're not always all going to agree. That's actually great. If we all agreed on something, there's no point in having all of us at the table. So disagreement is actually a way to get to good decisions. You're going to bring an opinion that I haven't thought of, a perspective. Let's talk it out. We'll have a vote, and you move on. You don't take things personally. You don't make things personal for the other person.
Yeah.
You get to good decisions. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And people won't feel comfortable airing a different perspective. And if they see this kind of behavior, and it's worse for people that are already underrepresented in elected office, they get it worse. Women are still underrepresented municipally. Only about 20% of mayors across this country are women. And, everyone, men and women, can be subjected to this, but women get a particular brand of harassment and abuse. It's very personal. Women get threatened with rape. Women get, your family members are put online, and so it becomes even worse in terms of what they're subjected to. And then, people of color get a particular kind of abuse around, go back where you came from, or just really vile, very personal, identity-based, commentary, and to us LGBTQ, Indigenous people, like all of the folks that we want their voices at the table, deserve to be at the table, represent a really important perspective. It's even harder for them because they get even more abuse and very personal. It's a very particular type of personal attack that people are subjected to, which is it's just horrifying.
Mm-hmm. You spoke to anonymity and kind of the internet as being playing a role, and Joel and I have talked about it on the podcast before. Like, it's very easy to be on the internet and typing stuff, and you're not chatting with the person over a coffee.
Yep.
I've found that someone might be a certain way on email or on social media, and then if I invite them out to a coffee and chat with them, well, funny enough, when they're leaving the coffee, they're like, oh, Sean listened to me and he had some really good points, and it kind of calms it down. But people are often, I don't know, they can't find the courage to actually chat with the human being who has been elected. And kind of hash it out and just chat respectfully in person instead of hiding on a keyboard. And I think with the internet, that really took it to kind of a whole new level of anonymity, where you're like, well, who is this person that's sending me death threats? Who is it? Oh, well, we posted on Instagram, so now we can track it down, and then you might be able to find a name. But when you're nameless, well, that's a really easy way to, start throwing out stuff, insults and whatever else.
Well, and it got, I've been in office 16 years, so pre and post COVID. And it was really during COVID that obviously that anonymity went through the ceiling, and people were anxious, they were concerned. It, took a toll on everyone's mental health because the situation was so difficult. And that's where it really started, where I got my first death threat during COVID. But that keyboard warrior, that anonymity, that just really has never really returned to what it was pre-COVID. And it does allow people that platform. And now with bots, with fake accounts, I'm seeing it now much more. I'm seeing it on Facebook as well, which you think that's the one platform it's hard to be anonymous, but people just take a fake picture, they have a fake name. I've now learned, like, people have told me that's a fake account, and they've showed me the signs to see. But and it amazes me the issues that will get people worked up. We were talking about whether we would have speed cameras. The province took away our right to do that. I supported having speed cameras that would send a ticket, just like a red light camera. I was getting anonymous threats from places like Texas.
Wow. Okay.
Like all over the country, people were weighing in on speed cameras as being an assault on freedom, I suppose. And I said, no, it's just behave yourself and you don't have to worry about it. Slow down. Easiest ticket in the world to dodge. So just
speeding.
Slow down. And then
they do have them in lots of places.
Well, we were about to install, and lots of communities had them, and then the province said no. I still think it was the wrong decision. But what I wasn't prepared for is when I posted about Burlington getting mail from across the country.
Yeah, that's an international issue.
North
now
America.
You're going to be getting some feedback from people that don't live anywhere near the jurisdiction.
Exactly.
That's definitely an internet wrinkle.
Yeah, and the other one that was really telling, and it goes back to what I was talking about with marginalized people getting worse. I posted about AVICC, and initially it was people in my community saying, thank you for recognizing this. It was like the simplest, for those celebrating, we honor that, and, have a great day. And again, around, all of a sudden I'm like getting pinged like crazy, and it was people that were, it just went right off the deep end. We had to turn off comments
Well,
after a
again,
while.
to your point, like probably bots, probably not actually real people. We had a controversy years ago in Parksville where a mayor was writing op-eds under a fake name into the newspaper. And today that's like, that's cute. That's adorable. It's like most of the letters to the editor are in the comment section. So many of those are they're just AstroTurf for fake people or alternate egos, or So.
Our city had to turn off the comments just permanently on the city, say, Facebook account or something, just because if you're going to have them turned on, you gotta have to manage them. So it's just easier to turn them off, and so that's what the city has done. We're still on social media and manage our comments, et cetera, but.
Well, it becomes a platform for spreading hate, misinformation. We learned that again during COVID, where people would start posting on my feeds a lot of misinformation, disinformation, and so we had to constantly monitor it, and eventually we turned off comments because it wasn't, the purpose for us to post was to spread good information and not be a platform or be hijacked for misinformation. And that's the biggest issue that I see now with social media, is that there's so much misinformation spread that with the demise, certainly in our area of print media, and people increasingly looking online to get their source of information and preferring platforms like Facebook or Instagram, talking amongst their friends to get their information, misinformation can spread in a nanosecond, and so can the kinds of things that are said about elected officials, things that damage your reputation. That can spread like wildfire as well, and it's very almost impossible to combat it.
Well, and if malicious characters out there in the world who discovered maybe during COVID, or really, it was very clear during COVID that you can spread misinformation, and if your only goal is to create dissension in democracies, it's a pretty handy tool to do that. And now we've just seen that more and more on every level of government. So I think what you're doing here is really great, because it's saying, okay, for politicians, we are not participating in that, and we should all recognize that what's happening in the comment section may not actually be a reflection of what the community is really thinking, because the people that are talking in those comment sections may not actually be in the community. They may be Texas bots.
Yeah.
So we're here with a group of local government elected officials thinking about running again. Maybe just to wrap things up, do you want to give kind of like your 30-second pitch that you've been giving to folks here in the room, and that can kind of give us our nutshell of what you're up to here?
Well, public service is a huge honor, and no one should have to risk their personal safety. So I want to thank everyone for actually signing the pledge, stepping up, bringing it to their councils, because the change starts with us, right? We have to be the change we want to see, and the opportunity to not only hear the stories and why this is necessary, but to recognize that people are saying we need to do better is inspiring itself.
Yeah, I think I've taken the pledge. I think I've signed it on the website.
Okay, great.
That's great.
Yeah. Oh, you're looking at me. I haven't done it yet. I will do it.
Do it. Electrespect.ca.
I have the button.
I only did it because I chatted with Bob, I don't know, a month ago or something.
That's good.
Yeah, no, I'll definitely do it. And I'll put this up on my campaign website as well.
Excellent.
I think it's a great initiative you're doing. As soon as I saw the booth there, I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm in, right? Like this is I don't wear a lot of things on my lapel normally, but I'm like, this is definitely one I think we should all put on. So thank you for the work you're doing. Thank you for turning some challenges that you've discovered in your role and into something very positive. And hopefully this is going to ripple throughout the country.
She's not cowering. She's turning her experience into something amazing for elected officials. Marianne, this has been a really important conversation. Honestly, one that's overdue. Thank you for the work you're doing, and thank you for taking the time to sit down with us here at AVICC.
Thank you.
So for our listeners who want to learn more and sign the pledge, that's everybody that can do this. Head to electrespect.ca, which will be linked in the show notes.
And if you're an elected official who hasn't yet brought this to your council, well, now you've got a podcast episode to share as your excuse to start the conversation.
Yeah, I think we'll do that. So that's a wrap on this episode of Nonpartisan Hacks. We'd love to hear what you think. If you've got a guest suggestion, a good government story, or a topic idea, drop us a line at nonpartisanhacks.com.
Until next time, take care of yourself and your community, Marianne. Mayor, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Thanks
Appreciate
for
you coming
having
on.
me.